Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. This is jpost.com. I've got a couple articles here. I want to take a look at first the peace plan, see where it's at, see when it's delayed to, and I think this is all in God's timing. I think, I know He knew exactly when the peace plan would be revealed, and He knows what's going on with this particular peace plan, whether this is the peace plan that's presented and enforced by the Antichrist or not. God knows what's happening. God also has a timeline. And so he is preventing certain geopolitical occurrences from happening because he isn't ready for it yet. And I think the stage is set, but God's timing is still a key piece. And he doesn't. He wants things to. He not only wants, but he's going to set things in motion in a certain period of time. I believe that the 7-year tribulation starts in 2021. So if that is indeed when God is going to allow the 7-year tribulation to start, then the peace plan is going to happen, is going to be delayed a few more times, and maybe just happen just prior to the 7-year tribulation. I think for sure it won't be enforced until the 7-year tribulation, but likely its unveiling will be, a couple months, 6 months, maybe 1 year ahead of the 7-year tribulation. So we still have some time here, and so I think there will be still more delays if indeed this is the one that ends up being enforced by the Antichrist. And then the other two articles we're going to take a look at are the dedication of the altar. They now have an altar. The Sanhedrin has created an altar that can be used for temple sacrifices, and that's on a trailer, so that's very significant. They could move that altar at any time. We're going to take a look at that. So what does this one say here? Trump's peace plan for Israel-Palestinian conflict facing more delays. Kushner says state. The word state means different things to different people. Trump administration plans to unveil its long-awaited peace plan in February, but its release may be delayed until March or April as it trains new staff on a team dedicated to the coming diplomatic effort. So they're looking to put together a team that's really going to push this and put all the strength behind it, and they're not quite there yet. The other complication was the Khashoggi murder. I don't know how geopolitically that affects it, honestly. Maybe they need Saudi Arabia on board. Maybe they need this to die down so the whole world can focus on the peace plan. The other situation that I haven't heard of news about is the suggestion by Macron that if Trump doesn't unveil his peace plan, Macron will come out with his peace plan sooner than later. And I would like to see that. That would be interesting. Publication of the plan, a project that is 2 years in the making, led by U.S. President Donald Trump, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and his longtime attorney Greenblatt, has faced repeated delays, it says. Members of the tight-knit peace team bristle at timetables and deadlines, but now privately admit that their timing will never be perfect for the launch of a fresh peace process, relying on participation of Israelis, Palestinians, and Arabs. Do you know what, though? It's not going to be perfect according to Kushner and Greenblatt. It will be perfect according to God. That's who is going to make the timing of the unveiling of this perfect. Again, if this is the one that ends up being enforced. For several months, Trump recognized Jerusalem as capital. After Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital a year ago, Kushner and Greenblatt expressed hope that the Palestinian Authority leaders might simply need time to vent their frustrations, only to come back around, basically to the peace deal and start negotiating. Kushner is said to be aiming for a February release, but one source briefed on the strategic plan said he expects the plan to launch no earlier than March at this point in time. Basically, the Trump's aides have dropped the language of the soon release and said they would not. They admitted that the outer limits of Trump's timeline will not be met. You can see here. This is the aides, Kushner, Greenblatt, and the group that are putting this together. A White House official cautioned the Jerusalem Post that the team remains flexible and has no date set in stone. I think God certainly has a date set in stone, and that's exactly why these things are being delayed. It says one event that contributed to the disruption is the brutal murder of Khashoggi. And they also list Operation Northern Shield by Netanyahu. So they're looking for kind of a calm um, in the Palestinian areas in the Gaza Strip, and you can't do that when you can't have a peace plan when Israel is directly going to war against Gaza. So they're looking for a quiet period, basically, where they can present it to both sides. Both sides can come together, and where there's relative calm and come to some agreement. And really, that's the time when that's the time to put the effort into really pushing this globally, and with the Palestinians and the Israelis, when there's apparent peace. Um, it's not a time to unveil it when you have imminent war in Gaza, and imminent retaliatory strikes and missiles being lobbed, etc. That would just be a waste of all the effort. So that's exactly what the Trump team is waiting for. Now this one's fascinating. These are images of the temple, the altar rather, for the third temple. Dedication of altar for third temple. Now this just occurred on Monday. The Sanhedrin hosted a dedication of the altar for the third temple, marking the event. You can see it in the background. It's a concrete altar. It says the altar was made of aerated concrete and constructed on a metal frame specifically designed to be loaded on a flatbed truck, so it could be moved into the third temple as soon as it was ready. Let me see if I can get. Let me pull that down there. Let me browse for the image here, and I'm just going to put the image up on screen here, if I can do it. Put that there, and move that up there. There we go. So here you can see the temple. Not the temple, I keep saying temple. The concrete altar. There we go. So this is a concrete altar that they made. So let's, here's what it says about this one. Though not ideal, it is entirely kosher for use in the temple service. Special vessels have also been prepared to be ready at a moment's notice should the need arise to jumpstart the temple service. Isn't that interesting? Should the need arise, should a peace plan be unveiled and enforced by the Antichrist, and the sacrifices are initiated again, should the need arise, at a moment's notice, they can jumpstart temple services and sacrifices. A menorah, it says in the photo below, is constructed of wood. That's one you can't see, but it's just a fake menorah. It goes on. I want to read a bit about how this is made, because I think it's interesting. Let's see. Okay, here's the detail of how it's made. After months of intensive study, the Sanhedrin ordered a stone altar built, scheduling its dedication to take place on the last day of Hanukkah, just outside the walls of the Old City, Jerusalem. The square altar is 9 feet square, 5 feet high, constructed of aerated concrete. The material was ruled to be fit for use in the temple. In the Talmud, it is explained that steel may not be used to cut stones of the altar, since the temple service brings life into the world, and steel, as it is used in war, takes life. Stones for the altar may not be cut using steel, since the temple service brings life into the world, and steel, though not ideal, is a light and easily transported and sized to be loaded onto a truck. The altar was constructed on a metal frame designed also for purposes of transportability. The intent was to create an altar that could be taken to the Temple Mount at a moment's notice should the need arise. So they needed something light, and they couldn't cut it with steel, so they poured concrete, basically, and used wood forms, I assume, for this. And they can use this for the sacrifices. I assume that they did not use rock, because they didn't want to... well, you can't use steel, so how would you get rock? You need chisels to get rocks out of the earth, so you can't do that. I think what they did in biblical times was they took pebbles, basically stones that were already broken, and simply piled them up, and that's how they created the altars. They could have done that now, but they would have had to use concrete to bind them together, because you can't move a gravity held together pile of loose stones, and you can't move that to an altar site. You can't put it on a trailer and move it. It would just fall to pieces. So I think the concrete, that's why they went with the concrete, because it fits all their particular rules for not being cut with metal. Rabbi Baruch Kahain served as high priest, instructing other priests in their functions, just as in Solomon's temple the different tasks to be performed were assigned by a lottery. The priests wore biblically accurate garb, appropriate for use in the temple. Incense was made for the reenactment. It is forbidden by Torah law to burn incense outside of the temple. A small quantity, smaller than that would be burnt in the actual sacrifice, was burned on the replica golden altar. Among the priests were young boys who were being trained in the temple service. So the Kohanim, the priestly descendants of Aaron and such. So it's a pretty cool situation where now, and this is one thing they were waiting for, now they can actually sacrifice animals. They now have an altar built. Isn't it interesting how these things are converging? This is converging along with the peace plan, along with Israel as a nation, along with geopolitical instability, wars and rumors of wars. The perfect situation, the perfect ingredients for the situation where the Antichrist needs to arise and come out and set up the world government and implement a peace or enforce a peace covenant with Israel, so that they can start sacrifices and build their third temple. Remember, they can't start sacrificing until the third temple is in place. Perfect timing, and I wonder if one of the pillars of the peace plan that comes up is that Israel can build its third temple as the carrot on the stick to get them to agree to it and abide by it and vote for it as a nation, basically. And so, pretty fascinating stuff. This is big news. This is one step. You always think we're so close. The stage is completely set, and then you see something like this, and you say, "Oh yeah, they need this." So I think we're also waiting on probably a red heifer at this point in time, a perfect red heifer. I think that is in the wings, as they say. There are red heifers. I think they're waiting, and they have to wait. I don't know what it is, a couple of months, a couple of years to see if it's a perfect heifer, red heifer, perfect for sacrifice, and that's what's going to be sacrificed on this altar. And so this altar is mobile. They can move it to wherever the third temple is going to be given to them, on the Temple Mount or otherwise, and that's all going to be brought in by part of this peace plan. All we need now is the revealing of the Antichrist figure. But I think before all this happens, we have an economic collapse and some significant wars. Isaiah 17, Ezekiel 38, where the world comes together and say, this is crazy, the world's going to war, we can't do this again. We need peace in the region. And that's really when the Antichrist steps up and creates peace, and forces to come in for 7 years and allows the Jews to have their temple sacrifices again. And so you're looking at it, the altar, which will be used for temple sacrifices. Thanks for watching, guys. The Lord is returning soon, but hard times are going to be coming, I think. Persecution is coming. I hope you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I'll end it there, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.